welcome to another episode of the Sports Clinic podcast. With me today are two fantastic cricket analysts. We have Ghani on cricket from Cricket Twitter, and of course, Pramit joins me. Let's briefly touch on Pakistan's 81-run victory over the Netherlands. I thought it was a good first game because it wasn't smooth sailing. It challenged the team. And to me, I took three takeaways that I want you guys to expand on. One, you had failure of the top three, and this is the top three that we've put the team and the management have basically put a lot of stock in for them to at least play 20, 25 overs. And then you basically had to have a rescue mission, but it also showed us the talent that South Shakil has. The second thing I thought was I felt Babar as a captain gets, and rightly so, has gotten a lot of flack for being reactive, but he was proactive, especially in the middle overs. He brought back Haris and then Shaheen to take wickets and break a very dangerous partnership whereby the game was starting to get away. And then the third thing that I thought, you can see the initial sort of sparks of some sort of form of Hassan and Ali and Shadab, whereby maybe they can be reasonably productive members of this squad. So let's hit all three. We'll start with Ghani and go from there.
I think it was a little jittery to start with. We would have wanted it to be a little bit more convincing, especially because it's against Netherlands. But I think if there was any team you could choose to be 30 odd for three against and still be able to come back, it would be the Netherlands. It is a bit of a reality check as far as the top order is concerned. A lot of our hopes are pinned firmly on the top three, but then again, it gave the likes of Rizwan, the likes of South Shakil, for example, a chance to really assert themselves, announce themselves on the World Cup stage. For me, the main concern, batting, I think we've kind of beaten that horn at this point. It's middle over sort of utilization, taking wickets in those phases. And I think there was that one game-changing over from Haris Rauf, where that kind of pace, the Netherlands batsmen, I don't think they have regular exposure to face that kind of bowling. So we got an opportunity and we were able to hit back. And like you said, a couple of positives there with Shadab and Hassan Ali finding some of his reverse swing, that second spell touch that we used to see back in that 2017 to 2019 phase. So minor positives there, but I think there's still a lot to be said for the top three. A lot of Pakistan's hopes have been centered around the stability that the top three gives. That's the template that we followed for the past 2 years of bilateral ODI cricket that we played. So hopefully, with Sri Lanka coming up, they can kind of get their house in order and start from there.
You raised a good point about the top three, and I'll ask Pramit because his boy makes up that top three. And so, we know that Fakhr has been scratchy as far as form, but you made a point whereby Imam has to show a little bit more value for his wicket. He has to show that it's worth something. The ball that he got out on really wasn't anything to write home about. Pramit, talk about when should we be concerned about Fakhr and the other points I touched on.
Regarding the top three, I think it's fair that we expect a degree of consistency from them because that's what they've done for the past 6 years. But we also need to realize most of the 6 years, all three of them, the majority of runs they've scored have unfortunately been against second string attacks because teams don't really send their first choice teams for a bilateral ODI series anymore, which is of course where they've scored all their runs. If you look at the two Asia Cups and the World Cup in 2019, two Asia Cups 2018 and 2022, the ODI ones, we haven't seen that same consistency that we see in bilaterals regardless of the opposition. So I think we need to temper our expectations a bit because I think the reality is the consistency we see from them versus New Zealand or Australia in bilaterals, we frankly won't. But I think one thing we saw, before I go to the middle order, but when we lose patience, I don't currently in the 15, you don't have anyone who can come in and change anything, frankly. Most of the pitches that we're going to play at are going to be ones based on the evidence so far of the matches plus the warm-ups. They're going to be high-scoring ones. So Fakhar, sure, he might not do anything, but if you bring in Abdullah, I don't see any value. He's adding on a good day. Abdullah can strike at 100 strike rate at best. On a good day, Fakhar can actually strike at 160, 170 even in an ODI game. So we need to take that account because in the past we've made decisions with our ODI team where we've gone for defensive choices and they've just helped us lose not as bad as we did. They really haven't helped us win. So I think moving to Abdullah from Fakhar will be sort of the same decision. I don't think it helps us win against any opposition really, so I don't think we should go there. But what we did see was the middle order, and especially South Shakil stepping up. And that's important because one thing that's gone under the radar is prior to the World Cup until a few weeks ago, middle order bowling wasn't the only concern. We also believed our batsmen didn't maximize the middle overs, especially with the four fielders and like other teams do. With South Shakil, what we've seen is he is actually taking advantage of that. And no one's talking about it anymore. Well, because in the warm up plus in the first game, our run rate in the middle overs wasn't an issue because South Shakil was playing that fast. So no one has noticed it, but that's actually a blessing that we only recently just sort of stumbled upon. I don't even know how South Shakil somehow made it into the squad. I was of course not in favor of it based on the past evidence I've seen of him in white ball, but it worked out well. Finally, coming to the bowling, good to see again Hassan Ali. I think the one wicket he got bowled at that ball didn't jag back in, which is again helpful. Not sure if that will happen frequently at other grounds. So that's to be decided. But again, Shadab's bowling is still a concern. He did bowl probably better than he has recently, but he still bowled quite a few long hops. The first wicket he got was on a long hop. So, and against better teams, those won't be wickets, those will be sixes. So, still lots to prove for the bowling attack, lots to prove for the middle order. But I'm actually more confident about our middle order than I have been ever in the past 4 years. Because the inclusion of South Shakil and even Rizwan. Again, Rizwan was a person that last year, a year and a half ago, I actually didn't rate at all. He seemed stuck in the middle versus spinners. I actually didn't want him in the ODI team at all in the middle order because I just couldn't see how he scores runs. And now he's scoring them for fun. He's way more consistent than any of our other batsmen currently. I think in 2023, he's barely had two failures in a row. So I think that's a step in the right direction. But again, I think against Sri Lanka, we'll see how some of those weak spots show up again in the bowling and the top order.
I thought his South Shakil's interview after post game was very insightful about how he approaches batting. He truly has a mentality of being attacking, and you can see he has a skill set. You mentioned Sri Lanka. Let's touch upon that. To me, when I look at that, I think that's tweeted this out. I think it's a key game because you win that, you have 4 points in the bag, and a lot of the pressure now is off going into that the game next Saturday against, I don't remember who we play next Saturday, but it's supposedly a big game. But if you lose to Sri Lanka, then now there's a lot of pressure on that game, and Pakistan has a tendency whereby the wheels can fall off very quickly from pressure. So do you guys agree with the premise? And then this is again a Sri Lanka team that just beat us. It also beat Pakistan in the 2022 Asia Cup. Now they're 0-7 against in World Cups, but could this be the year whereby they finally change sort of their record?
Just before I touch on Sri Lanka, I wanted to go back to the top three, touch on something Permeet was talking about. I actually think our top three is a little bit different in terms of expectations from them, as compared to an Australian top three or an Indian or South African, England, pretty much any top three, in the sense that as far as maximizing the power play goes, there's no direct sort of expectation from them to bat at six and over, regardless of the conditions. They're allowed, whether it's Fakhr, Imam, Babar. Our think tank is very comfortable with them, even going at four and a half, five and over, play off the power play, minimal damage, build that foundation and grow from there. So I think that's something that really is, if you're assessing top threes, I would look at our top three a little bit differently in the sense because not a lot of top threes have that sort of leeway where they can look the other way as far as power play maximization is concerned. So that's just one thing I wanted to bring up. Now, as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, a couple of interesting points there, Doc. I think mostly, I think most like 80% of the fixture is heavily tilted in favor of Pakistan for obvious reasons. Main thing I think is Pakistan's now been in Hyderabad for the better part of 2 weeks, including the two warm-ups. This will be now our third game in Hyderabad, so we fully understand the conditions batting first. We sort of know what to expect under lights, what changes in the second half, what to expect, what not to expect. Sri Lanka are obviously wounded. They're missing the likes of Dusanta Chamira, Manuna Hassanranga, Lahir Kamara, I think Tikshana, Pathirana, question marks around it. So a lot of their sort of first strength bowlers that have bothered us in different fixtures over the past 12 months are unavailable for different reasons. I think that helps us out a little bit as well. The fact that, of course, Delhi, an entirely different strip, but any bowling attack that goes for over 400 and I think, was it 28 runs,
Yeah.
will be, you've taken a battering. I think that has a huge psychological impact. There's a lot to say for that. And obviously, the very next game, you come extra hard. So it depends on where you're looking at it from. Pakistan probably have to be a little bit wary because Sri Lanka now have a very strong point to prove. I thought as far as the chase is concerned, obviously never easy to chase a 400 plus target, but I thought there were portions, they showed a lot of courage. They showed that they belong, whether it's Kusal Mendes up front, whether it was Asalanka, or even the captain, Dasun Shanaka at the bottom there. They tried to sort of keep at par with the run rate and
They
try
kept
to
the
go.
run rate within a reasonable.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think they showed that they belong. You can't really in a tournament like this. It's ridiculous to even think of writing a team off after one game or two games, for that matter. But just to go back to the original point you made, I think from a psychological point of view, this is a little bit of an alien territory for Pakistan to have to sound respectful, let's say winnable, comfortable fixtures up front before the arch rival game, game three. I think India, we all know that's a high pressure game. Like you said, to have two W's on the board, to land in Ahmedabad with 4 points in front of your name, a reasonable run rate, would be alien territory for Pakistan because we usually start tournaments in a very different manner, and we build momentum as we go backs against the wall. So that'll be a little bit different. But I think it's a good place to be. And for this kind of unit, especially with all the uncertainty and everything that's happened with the Asia Cup debacle and question marks around the squad, question marks around the captain, I think they'll need that stability to really form a base moving forward. So I think that says a lot. But I want you guys to focus in a little bit on the Hyderabad advantage because I think that's truly something Pakistan can drive home for this fixture.
Go ahead, Permit, talk about that advantage then.
Yeah, no, I think like Kani said, we've been here for about 2 weeks now, and I think Sri Lanka hasn't, so that's helpful. One thing we do need to keep in mind though is the factor of the second inning. It's regardless of the grounds, it's been pretty obvious that chasing is helping. Chasing is easier to score runs. Whatever sort of dryness we see in the first inning, spinner getting help, that seems to be minimized in the second innings. Even against Netherlands, we saw uh, Shaheen was dealt with fairly easily by the Dutch openers. So, that's some luck if it goes our way. If we do end up chasing, that will help. Also, psychologically, in the Asia Cup, we failed to defend a decentish total, 215-40 overs. So, I think if we do end up chasing, that's also beneficial for us. Plus, again, we've been here for a while, so we should try to maximize our experience in these conditions, which it seemed like when defending the total against Netherlands, we did like you said earlier. Barber's changes were on point. Hopefully that stays the same against Sri Lanka as well. One final thing on that match, I think while Sri Lanka has always or mostly been shy of resources in terms of talent when you compare them to the likes of Pakistan or any other major nation, that's one of the favorites of the tournament. One thing, though, they've always sort of surprised Pakistan with has been their intent. Sure, like, they ended up losing to South Africa pretty comfortably in the end, but like Kani said, I think they scored 94 in their first 10 overs. Pakistan is not used to that approach. Even in the Asia Cup, if I'm not mistaken, their top order dealt with our pacers pretty easily. Shaheen and Zaman, they were hit for quite a few boundaries in the opening burst. And especially Shaheen, given he doesn't look the Shaheen of old, even the Shaheen of a few months back. I think that's something that we need. That's something that Pakistan need to get right. They can't let Mendes or the other openers get off to a good start because, especially given our weakness in the middle over, if Sri Lanka is 80 for 1 by 14, 15 overs, they can end up posting a big total. So we need, I think that will be a crucial phase. Going back to your initial question about the impact this has on next week's match, I think it has a broader impact, not just on next week's match, but for the tournament itself. A team like Pakistan, who's potentially fighting for that fourth semi-final spot with the likes of New Zealand, South Africa, England, even Australia now, I guess, after their defeat. 6 wins is their target. If you win 2-2, you basically have to win 4 out of the rest 7, which, just one more than half your games, which is should be fairly doable. Assuming you win two of the other, like Kani said, winnable fixture, which are Bangladesh and Afghanistan, you really need 2 and 5. So it's crucial for Pakistan not let up in one of the games they're expected to win. We saw that 4 years ago when Pakistan again lost to West Indies. They had to play catch up. They did, even though defeat South Africa, New Zealand, they still missed out on the semi-final spot. So it's crucial we don't lose any points in our winnable games because that will make it easier. Because we have to understand, right after India, we have Australia at a pitch like Bangalore, which is also not a favorable picture. So even if we account for both India and Australia as losses, it gives us some wiggle room if we win against Sri Lanka. So I think it's crucially important, and as you've said, I think it's the big game. This can either give Pakistan a level of comfort or derail their campaign totally.
I think Tuesday should be a fascinating game. Thank you, gentlemen.